Picture a con artist in your mind right now. What do you see? A shifty stranger in sunglasses, someone with a slick smile and a fast, evasive voice, someone your instincts would catch in seconds. Now forget that image completely because it is almost never who actually gets you. The most successful con artists in history rarely look suspicious at all. They look like the most trustworthy person in the room. That is not an accident. It is the entire job description. Think about what a con actually requires. Not force, not stealth, persuasion. And persuasion works best when suspicion never activates in the first place. A con artist who triggers your instinct for caution has already failed, no matter how good their story is. So the most effective ones learned, often without ever studying psychology formally, to look like exactly the kind of person your instincts wave through without a second glance. Consider what your brain uses to judge trustworthiness in the first few seconds of meeting someone. Research on rapid social judgment shows that people form impressions of trustworthiness in well under a second, often before a single word is spoken. Eye contact that feels warm rather than intense. A relaxed, open posture. Clothing that signals competence or belonging, a nice watch, a clean suit, a uniform. None of these signals have anything to do with actual honesty. They are simply the visual shortcuts your brain has learned to associate with safety. A skilled con artist studies these shortcuts the way an actor studies a script and performs them with total consistency, because inconsistency is the one thing that actually triggers suspicion. The psychologist and writer Maria Konnikova spent years studying professional con artists for her research into the psychology of persuasion, and she found something that upends the popular image entirely. The most successful con artists are rarely master manipulators of speech. They are master readers of people. Their real skill isn't talking. It's listening, closely enough to identify exactly what a person is missing, and reflecting that missing thing back at them, disguised as an opportunity. A lonely retiree doesn't need a smooth talker. She needs someone patient enough to call every day and ask about her garden. A struggling entrepreneur doesn't need a flashy stranger. He needs someone who seems to understand his industry better than his own colleagues do. The con artist isn't selling a product. They are selling a feeling the target was already missing, wrapped in a package that looks, sounds, and behaves exactly like relief. This explains something that confuses people who have never studied fraud closely. Why do intelligent, successful people fall for cons just as often, sometimes more often than anyone else? Konnikova's research points to something uncomfortable. Confidence in your own judgment is not protection. In some cases, it's an opening. People who believe they're too smart to be conned often skip the caution that would normally slow them down, because their self-image tells them the con detector inside their head is already switched on and working fine. There's a deeper piece here, studied by a psychologist named Stephen Greenspan, who wrote extensively about what he called the psychology of gullibility. Greenspan identified something almost painfully ironic about his own research. He published a detailed academic breakdown of exactly how and why people fall for scams. Shortly afterward, he lost a significant portion of his own retirement savings in a fraudulent investment scheme. Greenspan later reflected that understanding gullibility intellectually did almost nothing to protect him emotionally. In the moment, when a trusted-seeming advisor was standing in front of him with warmth, credentials, and total confidence. Knowing the theory and resisting the performance turned out to be two entirely different skills. This single detail should reframe how you think about your own vulnerability. Knowledge alone isn't armor. The con works on the same emotional wiring, whether or not you've read the research paper describing it. Now consider the performance itself, moment to moment. The psychologist Paul Ekman spent decades studying the micro-expressions and behaviors associated with deception, and one of his most consistently reproduced findings is almost the opposite of what people expect. Skilled deceivers do not typically show more nervous behavior than honest people. Often they show less. Genuine anxiety, fidgeting, excessive blinking, broken eye contact is actually more common in honest people who are simply uncomfortable being doubted. A practiced con artist has usually rehearsed the performance so many times that their nervous system barely registers it as a lie anymore. To them, in the moment, it can feel almost like telling the truth. This is why so many fraud victims describe the same detail afterward, almost word for word. He seemed completely at ease. She never once seemed like she was hiding anything. That calm is not a coincidence, and it is not something honest people can simply fake better in defense. It is the specific output of extensive repetition. The same way a seasoned actor delivers a line for the 400th time with more natural feeling than an amateur delivers it once. Step back and look at what all three researchers, working in completely different areas, kept discovering from different angles. Confidence doesn't correlate with honesty. Comfort doesn't correlate with truth. And intelligence doesn't correlate with immunity. Every intuitive shortcut people use to detect a liar turns out to measure something almost unrelated to whether the person in front of them is actually lying. This is deeply uncomfortable because it means the skill nearly everyone believes they possess, the ability to read a room and sense when something's off, is far less reliable than it feels from the inside. It feels reliable precisely because you've never gotten meaningful feedback on the times it failed. Most successful cons are never identified as cons by the people who fell for them. They're simply remembered, if they're remembered at all, as an unlucky investment, a relationship that didn't work out, a friend who fell on hard times and needed help. Understanding this doesn't mean walking through life suspicious of everyone. It means recognizing which specific signals your instincts are actually built to catch, and which ones they were never designed to catch at all. Your instincts are excellent at detecting overt hostility, aggression, and obvious inconsistency. They are almost useless at detecting a calm, warm, well-rehearsed performance delivered by someone with genuine skill and enough patience to wait for exactly the right moment. This is also why the most effective protection against fraud rarely comes from intuition at all. It comes from structure. A pause before any financial decision involving someone new. A second, unrelated person consulted before money changes hands. A habit of verifying claims independently rather than trusting a confident retelling of them. None of these require distrust of any particular individual. They simply remove the one variable a skilled con artist depends on completely, which is being evaluated in the moment, under warmth, without anyone else in the room. Think back to the image you pictured at the very beginning. The shifty stranger, the fast, evasive voice, the obvious warning signs your instincts were confident they'd catch immediately. Now picture instead the person who remembered your coffee order, the one who complimented your instincts specifically, right before asking you to trust them completely. The calm one, the warm one, the one who never once seemed like they were hiding anything. That was never a coincidence. That was the entire performance, and it was built, patiently, to be the one thing your instincts would never think to doubt.